So welcome everyone to day one of the Global Women's Assembly for Climate Justice, Path to COP30 and Beyond. We're just so glad to have everyone with us today. My name is Osprey, Orielle, and I'm the Executive Director of the Women's Earth and Climate Action Network, or WECAN, and I'm living here on Coast Miwok lands in the San Francisco Bay Area in California. And as we open this gathering, it's great to see people continuing to introduce yourself. We welcome you to do so. It's wonderful to see where people are from. And for those of you who are participating through various live streams, we welcome you from far and wide. And if you would like to hear all of the sessions in your preferred language and also participate in the live chat, please also be welcome to join us in this Zoom space. And the registration link is on our website and across our social media channels. And with that, I also just wanted to start on a note, not logistical, to take a moment to acknowledge this very challenging time and welcome you all to a space for us to be together from all over the world and to support one another. Please know that WECAN is here for you and that you're not alone, and that we send you our love and well-being. The Global Assembly is taking place during the second week of the climate talks in Bonn, Germany, where the continued struggle by our movements is underway, challenging governments to fight for climate justice, the 1.5-degree guardrail, centering gender in the UNFCCC negotiations, climate finance, and just transition, and so much more. The Assembly is time to create a bridge with the vital advocacy work that is happening at the UNFCCC and also with the women and gender constituency. And dear to me, I want to thank our incredible Assembly organizing team who have put in countless hours and heart and soul into the protection of this 6-day event. Jacqueline Duncan, Ashley Guardado, Catherine Quaid, Jillian Lyon, Sophia Lovato, and Summer Sheikh. I can't thank you enough. And today, I'm very honored that we have with us Casey Camp-Horinek, who is the environmental ambassador of the Ponca Nation and a board member and project leader of WECAN. And I will say Casey is truly one of the most important leaders of our time. And we're so honored to be with this Indigenous elder who has such wisdom and knowledge. And as we commence the Assembly, she has kindly offered to start off this global gathering with an opening prayer. And then she's going to be joining us for an opening discussion on climate justice. And with that, I offer a warm welcome to Casey Camp-Horinek. You have the floor.
Thank you, Osprey. And thank you to WECAN and all of the amazing people who are here today, the women folks. But also thank you to the creation itself for allowing us to have this sacred way to come together. It's a different world for all of us to have this cyberspace place that we can meet in the web of life from all portions of Mother Earth. It's been my teachings and understandings that the women hold the wisdom within our village of what the village needs, because our communication with one another is very special. We pay attention to what our children need, to what our companions need, to what the food needs to be grown next year, to what the four legs are experiencing, what the water is saying, how she needs to be treated. We pay attention to the quality of life, who is without something, maybe a widower or a widowed person, maybe a homeless, which in our language doesn't even exist, that word. Maybe it's someone traveling through that needs caring. Maybe it's the village next door. But that is the existence we still have in these days and in these times, coming together from around the world nowadays instead of just our next door village, on what it is that is necessary for this world to continue to live in her own health, as well as to nourish us as one of her children, our Mother the Earth, our Father the Sky, or in whatever way that you happen to be able to make that connection to this web of life, to this truth that is a universal truth of the masculine and the feminine in balance with one another, with the ways of nature herself teaching us what it is that's needed within the natural laws, not within the laws of man. And at this time, at this moment, in this generation, and the generations to come, what is needed is peace. 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 Peace for our children. Peace for the children around the earth, in whatever form they are, but in the human form, we relate to those mothers and fathers and grandparents of the children that are experiencing the wars in their areas right now. We relate to the need for there to be a cease to this understanding of what is wealth, that they fight over oil and gas that lives within the Mother Earth naturally and is part of her, not separate from her, just like us. So this prayer also will include that, the prayer for the oil and gas, that it go back to its natural place. Ukanda Khube, Maja Khube. Great mystery, Earth Mother. On this day we come. We have a sacred relationship as women through this relative, the water. We ask for her guidance. We ask for first a prayer for ourselves to clarify ourselves, mind, body, and spirit, to come together as one big moving prayer through this form of life, so that we might be able to gather all of the energies that are gifted to us through air, fire, water, and earth, and the one true Mother, our Mother Earth, that we all share, and the one Father, the Father Sky, and all that is entailed there. We ask on this sacred day that you put our minds and hearts and spirits together and guide us. Show us the path that you want us to be on. Show us the beauty that you ask us to walk in. And I'm asking, when I look outside right now to the trees, through the little creek that runs along, through the hummingbird that's been coming to the window to join in this prayer, to the eagles flying over, to the creepy crawlers underneath the earth, and all of those that belong to her, through the star nation, through the moon mother that guides the rhythm, through the great mother ocean, through the mountains, through the eruptions that's going on in that place they call Hawaii. All around our mother, she is purifying at this time. Help us also to do the same, to align ourselves within the natural laws in a good way, in a healthy way, in a respectful way, for all of those babies, those children, those families, in whatever form, of 4 legs, of wings, whatever it is. Give them some love today. Protect them. Hold them close. Give them a way to be able to eat, drink, and breathe, just in the manner in which the great mystery has asked things to be here on earth. For those who are hurting in any way, we ask for a blessing. For those who are homeless, give them that. For those who are hungry, allow us to share the water and the food and the spirits that we have. Show us a path. Open that path, and let us have the wisdom to open our hearts to see the path in front of us that lead us into health, into well-being, into love and respect in all directions for all of our relations. And help us, even those things that we forget today to say, bring those out. Let them be felt. Let them be shared. Show us how to live again in the honorable way that the great mystery intended, as one with all of our relatives, never feeling separate from. Help us, Wakanda. Help us, Wakanda. Help us, Wakanda. Help us, Wakanda. And thank you. The deepest, deepest gratitude for bringing us together and giving us this moment. Show us the way. We will follow. Sha.
Thank you, Casey, so much for those beautiful words and opening prayer. I deeply appreciate it and very emotionally touched by everything that you shared with us. Thank you. Such important words. Thank you.
Mm.
When I first envisioned this assembly, I was imagining all of us who are participating in the gathering, connecting as roots converging beneath the surface of a great world forest and drawing strength from one another. I imagine this assembly and all of the speakers and participants, all of you who are joining us, as a mother tree, ancient and wise, standing tall in a world shaking under the weight of interlocking crises. Each person here, wherever you're listening from, is a part of that mother tree with its root network underground, reaching far and wide. And each of you are nutrients feeding a root system of justice, resistance, resilience, and a path forward. We are a living, breathing network, and the health of this world forest depends on all of us and our collective actions. To state it just plainly, the world is on fire and at many levels. This year, we've witnessed yet another record-breaking year of climate catastrophe. In Brazil, floods have displaced tens of thousands. In East Africa, prolonged drought has driven communities to the brink of famine. The Arctic, once a frozen guardian, is now a mirror reflecting our failure and melting silence. In the United States, wildfires have consumed homes and lives. I'm here in California, and it's been devastating. This is not the future. This is now. But climate change is not just an environmental crisis. It's a justice crisis, a societal crisis. And how we respond and who is centered in that response matters deeply. The most impacted Black and Brown communities, Indigenous nations, island states, Global South communities, low-income families, women and girls are being pushed to the front lines of a crisis they did not start. Climate injustice is a legacy of colonialism, of exploitation, of greed, stitched into the seams of a global community built on extraction. And in too many places, authoritarianism and imperialism are polluting and desecrating our lives. Climate justice and democracy are bound together. Without people's power, profit is raised above life in the deadly extractive economy, and without liberation, rights, and the rule of law, justice is not found. In my own country, we are experiencing grave threats to science, democracy, and justice every single day. The US exiting the Paris Climate Agreement is more than a policy error. It's a moral failure, a global betrayal, and a signal to the world's polluters that it's open season. This is not the time to step back. This is the time to rise. And at WECAN, I know for many of you, we are not waiting. We are not bending or breaking in this moment. It's actually time to get louder. The climate crisis is not waiting on politics. And it's vital to say that there's no climate justice without human rights. The egregious violations in Gaza, South Sudan, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and in other regions must stop. And right now, we must have de-escalation in Iran. Militarism is one of the most under-acknowledged drivers of the climate crisis. The US military is the world's largest institutional emitter of greenhouse gases and its presence in the Middle East has long been tied to the control of fossil fuel resources. In our current system, there are always government funds for war, but not funds to care for our communities and acting on climate. It's long past time to move trillions of dollars away from death and violence to life and well-being for all. It's clear that struggles for democracy, climate justice, and human rights are deeply interconnected. The systemic injustices we face today are not new. They have been building for generations from outmoded and dangerous ideologies of supremacy. And now we find ourselves at a major crossroads where resistance and courage are more vital than ever. As we look to COP30 and beyond, we are preparing not in isolation, but as a global movement. We want to carry forward the spirit of this assembly. We want this mother tree that is the assembly to nourish our strategy. We are connecting to reach the most local roots, to youth organizers in South Pacific, to water protectors fighting oil pipelines in North America, to solar cooperatives in Kenya, to mutual aid networks in Sao Paulo. Community-led solutions are not an afterthought. They are the front lines of the future. We also know what doesn't work. False solutions like carbon offsets, unproven techno fixes, and market-based schemes that are pushed by fossil fuel companies, big banks, and complicit governments to protect profits and delay real action. These distractions do not cut emissions at the source, do not deliver climate justice, and they only deepen the crisis we are fighting to stop. That's why our climate movements must continue to expose and shut down false pathways, because if we don't, they will hijack our future and lock us into decades more of destruction. We also know what works. Decentralized renewable energy, owned and managed by communities, just transition plans written with and by those who are impacted, rights of nature, indigenous rights, land back, and reparations for colonial damage, reforestation and agroecology movements that are regenerating the earth while feeding families, policies rooted in climate reparations and care-based economies, not corporate greenwashing, a fair, fast, funded phase-out of fossil fuels, and a clear understanding that the leadership of women in all of their diversity across all sectors is not optional, it is essential. From the wisdom of indigenous matriarchs defending the water and land and carrying critical cultural knowledge, to young women leading divestment campaigns in universities, to fisherwomen rebuilding storm-resistant food systems. Women are not just fighting for climate justice, we are innovating it. Women are protecting biodiversity, teaching climate literacy, holding governments accountable, and passing laws where none existed. And yet, the space to lead is shrinking. We can't separate the failure of governments to act ambitiously on climate from institutionalized patriarchy and the global rise in authoritarianism. And right now, this is playing out heavily in the United States. We are seeing rollbacks on environmental protections, attacks on reproductive rights, criminalization of peaceful protest, and disinformation campaigns targeting climate and racial justice. Who benefits from this authoritarianism? Fossil fuel companies and political actors who profit from division, delay, and extraction. Who loses? The people, especially those who have contributed least to the crisis, but suffer most from its impacts. With democracy weakening, climate justice becomes nearly impossible. The same forces suppressing free speech are blocking climate action and silencing frontline communities. The fight for a livable planet is deeply tied to the fight for inclusive, participatory democracy, which we have yet to achieve. Research shows that everywhere in the world where women have greater agency and political power, carbon emissions are lower and social and environmental policies are more effective. Projects led by or inclusive of women have more community buy-in and have better outcomes. Yet women remain vastly underrepresented in climate negotiations and decision-making. At COP29, only 8 out of 78 world leaders participating were women. So we must continue the struggle to center and amplify women's voices, not just as participants, but as architects of the healthy and just world we want. To everyone in this assembly, your courage is fuel. Your honesty is oxygen. Your action is sunlight. Around the world, we see you, we are with you, and we need you. Together, we have knowledge, we have the tools, we have the science, the stories, the solidarity. We're not waiting. We don't need another wake-up call. We are on the move. And this is why WECAN is hosting this assembly, to uplift women in all their diversity and community-led solutions, strategies, policies, and frameworks. It's code red for humanity, and we are drawing a red line to say no more sacrificed people and no more sacrifice zones. This is the time to unite together to build the future we know is possible. Our community forest is alive with possibility. Our roots grow deeper, our branches stretch wider. Our canopy shelters those not yet born. We can act now, and we must act now, because the earth is calling, and we are answering. So thank you so much for being here with us. And we're going to have an incredible 6 days, and we're going to go on this journey together as we hear from so many leaders from around the world. And now I want to bring into the discussion my dear colleague, Zukiswa White, who is a project specialist and social justice consultant from South Africa. And I want to welcome you, Zukiswa, and thank you for joining Casey and I for this opening session to discuss framing for climate justice principles. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Osprey, and to WECAN. Cassie, for opening this work with so much sincerity, as always, the excellent framing, Osprey, and to all of you joining from across the world, and of course, all the convening partners of this brilliant initiative under the Global Women's Assembly for Climate Justice, Path to COP30 and Beyond. I am joining this discussion from SB62 in Bonn. I'm in community and on the ground with allies and co-creators of a transformative climate just future as we continue to hold the line fiercely at these climate talks. I'm feeling so grateful to be kickstarting this brilliant advocacy initiative and honored always to amplify the tireless and bold organizing and leadership of frontline communities, of women, of feminists, and indigenous, rural, and local communities around the world. Unfortunately, this tireless work of advocates within the walls of the UN and community activists and leaders on the front lines beyond the walls of the UN is frustrated consistently by unending delay tactics that keep the catalytic potential of this work buried under the bureaucracy and alienating semantics in these climate negotiations. We are in a political climate where inspired action and leadership feels lower than ever, despite this being a record-breaking year in terms of warming. But thankfully, our work continues beyond these soulless walls. The fight for climate justice does not sit outside the fight for gender justice, for health justice, for worker rights, for anti-extractivist struggles, and the many ways the progressive left has continued to organize and fashion struggle. Across the world, there is a growing recognition that climate justice is an urgent political imperative. Movements of land defenders, protectors and nurturers of sacred ecosystems, and social and political activists who are organizing in repressive regimes sponsored by the anti-rights agendas of the North are shaking tables and pushing back against the greed and exploitative logic of extractivism and its unholy matrimony with colonialism, imperialism, racism, and white supremacist patriarchy, to offer the world a more human face, even under impossible circumstances. We simply refuse to give in to human-made suffering, death, and destruction at the altar of the whims of the wealthy and elite. They do not represent us. They have never represented us. And because they do not represent us, they cannot take away our collective will to live. And I said this in a previous panel, that if the rich choose to die behind their climate resilient walls, we, the majority, choose to live. We must simply continue to aggressively exercise our refusal to normalize the abnormal. We must continue to choose life. We must live, and we will live. And in choosing to live, we are united by the strength of our commitment to making climate justice outcomes politically inevitable. I want to reiterate that our work is to make climate justice outcomes a political inevitability. This will demand no less than a complete overhaul, a system change approach in analysis, in coordinated action, and in our visions for the future. What we know for sure in this work is that it does not begin outside a framework that positions climate justice within the struggle for ending the world as we know it. An anti-imperialist, anti-colonial, anti-racist, anti-capitalist, and anti-patriarchal and anti-rights agenda is the bare minimum for where we start this work if we are truly to see its transformative potential in fashioning a new future. What we also know for sure is that there can be no climate justice on occupied lands. Indeed, as Osprey said, no more sacrificed people, no more sacrificed zones. This too is a bare minimum. There is no place for settler colonies and their regimes in the inevitable future that we are fashioning. Land must return to the indigenous people, and the rights to collectively govern and decide on that land must be restored to the indigenous and rightful landholders. Despite that this work is happening in the face of fierce opposition, lethargy, and political will across the board, which leaves much to be desired. Despite all of these, what must be absolutely clear is that our movement to course correct does not stand a chance outside of waging genuine struggle against empire. As another grounding political imperative, we must understand that for this work to truly be meaningful and transformative, it must root itself in genuine advocacy for degrowth in the global north as a matter of urgency, quite literally life and death, while the majority world looks towards a post-extractivist future. This is not a condition that can continue to be negotiated. The global north must commit to degrowth. The global south must look towards a post-extractivist future. Ultimately, we must be honest. The so-called development in the global north was sponsored not just by the underdevelopment of the south, but as a result of its exploitation and the total force of racism and colonialism, of our lands, of our minerals, and our very ways of being. And so whether or not we continue on the path of extractivism in the South, this alone will not account meaningfully for our own development, because in the first place, it was not just the fossil fuel industry that catalyzed so-called development in the North. It was land theft, it was plunder, and the genociding of indigenous and native communities that cannot be a model that we continue to look towards. And even if the global south insists on arguments for continued extractivism, what we must always locate is that in the first place, the development of the north depended quite literally on the rape of the pillaging of the global south. So even if we were to continue on this path, unfortunately, we cannot meet our own development agenda with the cruelty that it took for the North, which is today denying the South the resources and the financing it deserves, and ever claim to reach that. So the future that this work promises also as an imperative must be an improvement on current conditions, not threaten to move from one set of exploitation to another, or even worse, exacerbate conditions of the masses. So we must in this work address rather than exacerbate existing injustices. For example, when we speak about transitioning, because a transition
I'm so
is
sorry.
happening
This
one
is the
way or
interpreter.
another.
I'm so it's extremely fast and none of the interpreters can follow up. I'm so sorry, but can you please slow down, because what you're saying is super important and we want to make sure it's captured in all languages. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and apologies for that. Maybe I ask Osprey, how much time do I have? Do I have like 2 minutes still?
Yes, you have just about Just that, like a minute or two. Yes.
Oh, okay. Apologies to the interpreters and to everyone joining us and in the language booth. But where I was saying that even when we imagine a transition, because a transition is happening one way or another, we don't want a situation, for example, where we are transitioning from one form of precarious labor to just another form of precarious labor. We do not want the conditions in the first place that make labor precarious. Choosing to maintain the status quo is neither a coincidence nor is it our inevitable destiny, as our detractors may want us to believe. Rather, it is a political choice. And as I close, I want to be clear. Upholding systems that violate planetary boundaries and dishonor life is a political choice. Delaying meaningful progress on achieving the goals of the Paris Agreement must be understood for what it is. It is not a matter of process as they want us to believe. It is absolutely a matter of politics. Politics that displace, politics that kill, and politics that thrive on human suffering. Only our organizing allows us to stand a chance to fight the lethargy of the UNFCCC, which is currently not fit for purpose, and move into implementation of policies that not only halt devastation, but also champion democratic, gender transformative, and community-based solutions. The physical realities of needing to maintain 1.5 degrees are just quite clear to see. It is a matter of life and death. You are able to smell fresh air today. Can you guarantee that your children in 20 years will be able to do the same? We are seeing every day how we are straying far and far from the path. No neo-capitalism. Climate justice is not an avenue for tech bros to live out their Silicon Valley dreams. Neither is it a pathway for capitalism to reinvent itself. We must guard the co-opting of our movements from those who see opportunity to profit and plunder, where others suffer from threats of death and destruction. I've run out of time, and so I will just close by saying COP30 must unlock opposition and unleash climate action. We are in a polycrisis moment where, as I said earlier, a transition is happening. What the problem is that it is currently uncoordinated, unplanned, and without any real direction to ensure and safeguard an alternative future. And so once again, our role as CSO is to stand in solidarity with the front lines to make climate justice outcomes politically inevitable. Thank you so much, Osprey. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Zukiswa. Such a powerful presentation, and thank you for framing us up for the assembly ahead and all your powerful words. We're a little short on time, and we know we've sort of got to keep going with the next round of speakers, but I did want to hand the floor back to you, Casey, just for like a minute closing of this session. And just for everyone to know, Casey Camp-Horinek will be on one of the panels later on this week and have a full opportunity to speak, and we really look forward to hearing from her. But Casey, I just wanted to give you a final word before we close the session. And thank you so much, Zukiswa. Oh, you're on mute, Casey.
That too. Sometimes it's good for me to be on mute, but I'm grateful to be able to speak to you all. And thank you so much for those incredible insights and words and powerful work that you're doing in Bonn, Germany. I think what I'm hearing, number one for me is to continue to push forward what we can started at the Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues, that Indigenous rights are a climate solution, that the things that we bring forward from our past, from the ways sitting in the Earthen Lodge this morning in preparation for today's discussion. It was cool on a warm day. It was safe during a tornado. It is sustainable ways of living that Indigenous people have always had in their minds and hearts, because we follow what the land tells us to follow. And that we as women gathered this morning and talked about our children, talked about the unborn, talked about what we hope for the future. And then action has to follow. Action has to follow. Energy follows intent. That's true. We can put our intentions out there to change things, but we are in a critical moment in history. And we have to understand that our legacy demands that we warrior up, that we warrior up for peace, that we warrior up for the future that we are knowing has to be given to those that come after us, just as those before us protected us, loved us, made a way for us, despite the colonial mindset, despite any of that toxicity that is talked about, despite the imbalance. Here we are. Now, what do? We take to the streets, we make policy, we demand that we're heard in every single space that is out there, and we take up that space. We move into it. We assume the power of the feminine in this universal way of being, and we rebuild from there, and we do it now, and we do it strong, and we do it together.
Ooh, thank you so much, Casey. Really hear you about this is our time. This is a critical time right now. And I want to thank you so much for the opening prayer and your powerful words, and also Zukiswa for that incredible analysis. And it's just a powerful way to open this 6-day event of the Global Women's Assembly for Climate Justice, Path to COP30 and Beyond. And we're going to be talking about all of these topics throughout the next 6 days. We're going to start our next session, but before we do that, I want to announce that today we are releasing a powerful call to action to governments and financial institutions globally. We want them to hear from us and talk about action. This is an action plan that we have designed. It's a collectively written call to action. It will be delivered at the UN General Assembly in September and at COP30 in November. And you can see the call to action with our demands in the chat. And also it will be going out online as we speak and out to the media. And there is still time to sign the document and take action with us. We welcome organizational sign-ons, and those will be included when we deliver the document in September and at COP30. And you can find that in the chat. So thank you everyone for joining us. Some are still coming on now. We encourage you to introduce yourself in the chat. And with that, I'm going to move us to our next session.